Greetings and welcome to this video presentation, Establishing Positive Routines for You and Your Family. I'd like to begin by discussing some of the benefits of having routines in your home. So one benefit is that daily routines help your child know what to expect, what's coming next, which helps them to be able to get ready faster in the morning because they know what's coming next, and just being familiar with the consistency of what a routine provides. It also increases your child's independence because, again, if they know what to expect and they're familiar with expectations, they're able to do more themselves. And then increasing your child's independence makes your life much easier because you are not required to do as much for them. They can do more on their own. I really do want to highlight that consistency is key. Children really thrive on consistent routines, but routines are really helpful for everyone. So for routines to work, family members really need to work together. When you're establishing routines within your home, you really want to consider not only what you are doing, but what everyone is doing. That includes anyone in the home. And then you also want to think about what goals need to be accomplished. So, such as what time a person needs to leave in the morning when you're thinking about your morning routines, or maybe even if there are activities in the evening that various family members need to be ready for and leave the home for. So what needs to occur before those things can happen? And then you want to make sure you're clearly communicating expectations to your children for what those goals are and what needs to happen for any routine that you would establish in your home. So working backwards, if we think about our morning routine, you need to first consider what time everyone needs to leave in the morning. Is it the same time? Are people leaving at different times? And then what does each family member need to do before they head out that door? And how long does each task take? So then you think about your wake up time, what time you're waking up your children in the morning, for example, or what time you need to be up maybe before your children wake up, depending, of course, on the age of your child or your children. And keeping in mind that this may differ on weekends or holidays, those non-work or non-school days, but you do really want to keep that wake-up time as consistent as possible, especially for your children on those days where they are getting up and going to school and you're getting up and going to work. And then also think about when bedtime is the night before so you can make sure that everyone's getting enough sleep to be well rested and functional the following day. So working through challenges. This is an interesting activity that you may want to consider completing either on your own or with someone in your home, such as your spouse. If you were to go through a typical day and just discuss those different times of day, such as from when you wake up to when you leave in the morning, or from when you get home to when dinner is, and then maybe the dinner routine itself, the evening routine from dinner to when everyone's getting ready for bed, and then getting the kids into bed themselves, and what that routine looks like. You can rate those routines. Say one would be like, wow, this is an extremely difficult or stressful time of the day, or a 5, this is a relaxing time. I really wouldn't change anything about it. And then you can talk about, well, what makes the best times of the day or those routines work well in your home? You may actually be surprised. You may have differences between you and, say, your spouse as to what times of day may be stressful for you and not for them, or vice versa. But next, you would want to identify what are those most challenging times of the day. So, for example, perhaps arriving home from work after picking up your kids, you try to go through backpacks, get that laundry in the dryer, help with homework, get dinner started, and all while your kids are all competing for your attention. I can attest to this one personally because that really applies to me. So, when you're thinking about how challenging that time of day is, let's maybe start by identifying one thing that might make that time of day better. So for example, it would really help to just have a few minutes where you can go through those backpacks and not have anyone asking you to get something for them. That's just an example. So maybe you could say to your children, I need 10 minutes to go through the backpacks. And maybe what can you do to make that happen? Establish a rule. until the book bags are gone through and off the table, nobody asks mommy for anything. Again, this is just an example of something that you could do. Or maybe have activities planned. Maybe your routine includes when you get home that your older children go and start their homework. Younger children who may need assistance with activities such as that have certain activities that are out and available for them to engage with until you can help them with whatever they need help with. I would also, encourage you to discuss and divide just responsibilities. Maybe when an older child or a spouse comes home from work, you can kind of determine ahead of time who does what. So someone's doing the dinner, someone's helping with the homework, so that it doesn't all fall on one person. And then also thinking about how to identify and avoid triggers, those situations that cause conflict. So for example, getting ready in the morning, the bathroom is probably a hot commodity. Everyone needs it to get ready. So arrange it so that not more than one child is in the bathroom at any one time, for example, because that may cause bickering between your children. If we can swing it in our home, we try to make it that only one child is upstairs in general at a time, just because it can sometimes cause conflicts. So just really thinking about, again, what everyone is doing and what everyone needs to do to get ready or to get through any given time of day, and how you can avoid common conflicts. These are just some simple strategies that can also help. Use of timers. So you need to be out the door at a certain time. You know how long certain tasks should take and how much has to be done. So simply stating, I'm going to set a timer. You have 10 minutes to, and then you can state whatever it is your child needs to do in that amount of time. Perhaps it is to get dressed and brush their teeth and be done. Or after breakfast, they need to go get ready. But just setting that timer, it gives a concrete expectation for your child. And then sometimes it can be more in reinforcing, or a child may be even more excited or willing to engage with your expectation when you say, beat the timer. Like, let's see if you can beat the timer and make it more of a competition. And then throughout the day, transition warnings are important when you're going from one routine to another routine. So, for example, a transition warning, for those of you who just may not be familiar with that terminology, is when you're approaching the end of an activity and need to move on to another activity, letting your child know that that change is coming, so that they have that warning, that verbal warning that they have to finish up what they're doing. So in 10 minutes, it's time to clean up your toys and get ready for dinner, for example. And then maybe providing another transition warning at 5 minutes. And then at 1 minute, okay, you need to finish up because you have 1 minute, and then it's time to come to the kitchen. So those are some examples of transition warnings. And they're helpful really for any child frequently throughout the day to help them to understand what's coming next. Even when you have established routines, that sense of time, depending on the age of your child, may not be well developed. So transition warnings help them to understand how much time they have left to do something. So breaking down responsibilities into smaller components, it is extremely easy as adults to become overwhelmed with everything that we need to do. And it's often unrealistic to expect that we will be able to get everything done that we would like to on any given day. We really tend to think more about realistic expectations for children and others around us, and then expect the impossible from ourselves. So ask yourself, what is truly realistic to expect me or anyone in my family to do today or any day? And then think about maybe spacing general responsibilities, things that have to happen on a regular basis, out, even like through the course of the week, or maybe even over a month, like household chores, so that it isn't as overwhelming, because then you're just focusing on 1 or 2 tasks per day. Sometimes it's helpful, especially for working parents, if there are certain tasks that are able to be accomplished on some evenings during the week, it does make it so that there's not that overload on the weekends. But again, just mapping it out, and you can do this visually. You can even do a calendar of each week of any given month and rotate the responsibilities that occur on weekends. We like the free fifth weekends of the month. I do this myself, honestly. Have kind of that monthly plan of cleaning tasks, everything from the bathrooms to the kitchens to the vacuuming, and that free fifth weekend where you don't have any like planned chores is awesome. It happens maybe once or twice, sometimes I think 3 times a year. But again, just it helps to organize and accomplish what needs to happen. And then also just an idea for go-to meal ideas, to have kind of that list or template of, especially during the week meals where you have to get dinner on the table a little quicker, to have those ideas. And then starting that grocery list, have it going throughout the week so that anyone in the family can add to it, including yourself. It makes the grocery list a little less overwhelming when you actually have to create that to go to the grocery store. A few other helpful tips. Is there anything maybe you can do the day or evening before to help plan for the day? So for example, when you are doing laundry over the weekend, can you take a look at the forecast and set out clothes for the week for yourself and for your children, so that that's one less thing you have to worry about the morning of, or even the night before during the week. You have it laid out. Or even getting your lunches ready. When are you doing that? Is it a scramble in the morning, or are there some things you can pack after dinner the night before so that there's less to do in the morning? And then also, you know, in our current situation, those used masks that are coming home every day with your kids and the ones you have to wear, if when you go and take those and place them maybe in the laundry room to be washed, that you just take the clean one right then and there and stick it in your child's backpack so it's there for the morning, and then that's one less thing for you to have to remember. So anything you can do ahead of time, especially if that becomes a habit, part of your routine, that can really help with those crazy mornings. And then thinking about some quiet go-to activities that you can have on hand, trying to avoid it always being a screen, like the TV or the iPad, for times that you know you need to give your full attention to a task, such as getting dinner ready. Or just for when your kids are just being entirely too hyper and they need to settle down and do something quiet. Just having some of those activities in the back of your mind. They could include puzzles, they could include arts and crafts type projects that don't require supervision, coloring, reading, just anything that your child enjoys doing that's quiet. Or even some chores. Maybe you could plan on certain chores that your children are required to do occurring at times when you know that you need to be focused on something else. I will say there is a time and a place for screens. I don't want this to come across as you never can do that. Just be mindful of that being in moderation. And anytime that you can positively engage your child in a task, it is much less likely that they will get themselves into trouble. So can your children help with the task itself? If you're making dinner, is there something they can do to help with that? Could they set the table, perhaps? Or maybe even some small cleaning or organizing task for you. Wipe down the counters or wipe down the table before you eat. And then another helpful tip, is there a reliable way you can provide yourself reminders when there's those extra things you need to remember that aren't something you have to do daily? So you're not scrambling in the morning or the night before. Some ideas come to mind. Snacks, maybe it's your child's turn to bring in the snack for the class the next day. Or those spirit days that your kids, are supposed to wear certain colors or certain sports shirts. And it turns out that, well, that's in the wash the day that they're supposed to wear it. Are there ways that you can remind yourself of those things? Like put it on a calendar. Are you a Post-it note person where putting Post-it notes in visible locations helps you to remember things? A whiteboard on your refrigerator, or even texting yourself. You know, when you send yourself that text and then you have that little number there to remind you there's something that you need to do. Again, just a tip that may be helpful for those types of circumstances. And along with anything else, if that becomes a habit, it becomes more automatic and then requires less mental energy. That gives you that mental energy to use towards something else. I definitely want to talk a little bit about self-care because it is so, so important. In order for us to be good parents and good husbands and wives, we also need to take care of ourselves. And something to think about when you are going through and thinking about the routines of your day, is there anything that is part of the day that really doesn't need to be, or might even be causing stress? So taking out what isn't necessary. In our home, our evening actually revolved some around our kids watching a TV show. It was part of the routine before we started bedtime. And then it was like we couldn't do anything else because we would run out of time. There just wasn't enough minutes and hours of the day between when we'd get home from school and when we need to start bedtime routine. So we took it out, and it honestly worked out much better than we expected. After a few days, our kids adjusted rather quickly. So just taking out what isn't necessary and being kind to yourself. So again, giving yourself the same grace that you give to others is really important. Thinking about something you can do each morning that helps you with a positive start to the day. Maybe you're an early bird and getting a little exercise in is something that helps you with a positive start. Or maybe being able to just sit and do something quiet. Or maybe you do have that extremely crazy morning where either of those options are just not an option for you. But maybe on your drive to work, maybe you have your prayer time, and that's a positive start to your day, helps you get ready for whatever you may be facing when you get to work. And then I just want to mention that although routines are important to have, allowing for flexibility too. You really want a healthy balance. And what I mean by that is, say you have your responsibilities that you want to do on a Saturday, for example, but then something comes up, a spontaneous family outing presents itself as an opportunity, or even a planned event. You don't want to miss out on enjoying whatever that is because you're stressed about the responsibility you're not getting done. So it's not to say that we wouldn't still need to do that at some point, but just allowing for some flexibility and not being too rigid when you do create a routine, because that's not healthy either. I do want to take a moment also to speak to those of you who are single parents and or parents who are far from family, who have significantly less help and have a lot more responsibility on your shoulders. Self-care is a must for you too. Reach out to those close to you. I would really encourage you to do that, those that you trust. And I pray that you would connect with either a church or church family, and that you could ask for help when you need it. Because asking for help can be very difficult, but just as we need to teach our children to ask for help when they need it, we need to remind ourselves to do the same. So, you are stronger than you know. You can do this. God loves you, and he sees your every need. So single parents out there, or parents who are really struggling that don't have family or feel like they don't really have help, I hope that those words can register with you, because self-care is important, and there are people out there that can provide you support. So just a little more on self-care. In addition to daily prayer and perhaps daily devotionals to help us grow in our spiritual health, our bodies are designed for exercise to be another way to stay healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. So when we release those endorphins through exercise, it really also helps to combat feelings of sadness and anxiety. So our bodies also receive huge benefits from sunshine and vitamin D. So just spending time outdoors is helpful for you. It's helpful for your children and your family as a whole. So I just wanted to put that out there as some other self-care type things that you can do um, to help get through whatever stressful situation you may be facing. I also want to note that kids need downtime too. And it's okay to limit those extracurricular activities. We definitely live in a society that pushes for, kids to be involved in a lot. And it's a lot for them, just as it's a lot for us to figure out how we're going to transport them and our other children. And again, get all of those evening responsibilities accomplished on a school night when one child has soccer and another child has Girl Scouts, and the list goes on and on. I'm not saying that you want to totally, take out extracurricular activities, but just, it's okay to limit it to one, maybe a season. Just think about it before you put too much on your plate or your child's plate. Because when we are too busy, we forget to focus on the things that are most important. So where to begin? We've talked a lot about this whole idea of establishing routines and working through challenges, caring for ourselves. So where to begin? Focus on one routine at a time. And remember that if you are going to be making any changes in order to establish some routines in your home, change takes time to become a habit. So stick with it. It may not go smoothly at first, and that's okay. But consistency, there are so many benefits from the consistency, not only for your children, but for you as well. So I would encourage you to give any attempt at creating a routine and maybe making some changes, to give it time, to work. And then discuss any changes or new expectations as a family. Don't put that all on yourself, and keep that communication open. Talk about what's working, maybe something isn't working, how can you address that? And talk about how you can help each other in meeting your family goals. So that concludes this presentation on establishing routines. I thank you for joining me, and I hope that this was beneficial to you.